All right, we're live here. Let's give it a few minutes for people to get on here. I'm going to check the Facebook page to see if we got some people. If you're in there, go ahead and comment. We got 4 people looking. If you have a comment or a question anytime, feel free to throw it on there. We can't always see your name, so if you have a question, feel free to just go ahead and ask. We'll try and do our best to answer it and do what we can. I have Mr. Matt Schaefer with me. Matt.
Morning, Sean. Morning, Kevin.
Matt, where are you from, buddy? Tell people where you're from, Matt.
I am from Syracuse, New York originally, and I've spent the last 20 years between Bradenton and Tampa, Florida.
Okay, so you live in the Tampa area. Hello, Miss Kayla. You're from the Tampa area?
Yes, sir. Wesley Chapel, 1 exit north. Very nice community.
Awesome.
Very friendly.
And how long have you been an agent selling insurance and all that good stuff?
15 years.
15 years. And you have quite a bit of background. You've definitely helped quite a bit of duels, would you say? How many duels in your lifetime have you helped over the years? Let's say more recent years, more like last 3 to 5 years.
Anywhere from 300 to 500 in the last few years.
Yeah, pretty safe bet. I'd probably closer to 5 than 3. Okay, and then Mr. Kevin Hott, you've been with us before. Say hello.
Hello.
And Kevin, you've been an agent for how many years now?
It'll be about 4 years in April.
Wow,
2020 is when I started. Yep.
Veteran.
Time flies.
It does.
Fellow Marine that I served with. And Kevin, and have you sold duels before?
I have. I started my first year was pretty much all duels. So yeah, that's
so you sold quite a bit of duels.
Yep.
In Florida or like everywhere?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Nationally.
There you go. Awesome. All right. Well, gents, if you got anything as we go, jump in. I don't need to be talking the whole time. The first part, we're just going to do a bunch of admin stuff for quite a bit. At the very end, we're going to get more into the sales stuff. But if you see anything anywhere along the way, just jump in. Fair enough.
Yes, sir.
And anybody watching live or whatever, put a comment in there. We see your name if it's on YouTube. We don't see your name if it's on Facebook. We'll see it later or whatever. But if you have a question, feel free to ask. We're not going to be splitting atoms here in this class. A lot of this information is available, but we just know how to put it together. Again, when we do our classes here, they're meant kind of for beginners, but certainly advanced people can use them as well. Sometimes it's a good refresher. So if you know a lot about duels, we're probably not going to, build something great for you. But if you're brand new or kind of want to learn more, this is going to be a pretty good class for you. So this class is helping those with both Medicare and Medicaid. So why do we help duels? Well, there's about a little over 12 million people in the United States today that are dual eligible, and they need your help. Mia Farrow, may I get your signature, please? Great question. How do you market yourself to write duels in various states? I'll try to answer that at the very end. We run leads. I'll tell you, we run leads all over the place in the country, with the exception of 2 states. And although sometimes they come in from there, but long story short, you're going to get people, depending on what type of leads you're running, that have any given scenario, including duels. So you have to be prepared if you're going to, kind of put yourself out there for that. So we don't just, sell a dual lead. It's dual leads come in and, we're helping depending on their situation. A large chunk of little hot tip here, 40% of dual eligible are under the age of 65. Okay. Under the age of 65. I hope you understand the language I'm saying here. I worked on a gentleman a couple of days ago. We're working with him. It'll happen at some point. We're not a big pushy agency or anything like that. They'll sign with us. We introduced them to the concept. 22 years old, dual eligible. Now, 40% are under 65, and I'm going to do more than just lay the sticks that I'm putting down to see if you can pick them up. I will have that customer for 42 years before anybody else reaches out and contacts them. Are you laying down when I'm picking up, or the other way around, picking up when I'm laying down now? We have people in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s that are customers of ours, and nobody knows they exist because they're duals. Right? 51% of people that are dual eligible in the United States are of color. 44% are of very poor health. They're chronic, actually. 48% have one limitation with activities of daily living. They may not be able to move. They may not be able to walk or transfer from point A to point B or use the restroom properly. There's 6 activities of daily living. 87%, of course, make less than $20,000 a year. And 50% have a mental health condition. And that's probably the hardest thing to work with duals is there's a lot of mental health conditions going on. And, sometimes they don't know what they should have or shouldn't have, and it creates a lot of problems. And that's where you really, as an agent, can struggle with folks in your presentation, because maybe they don't know what they should do or shouldn't do, or what's good for them or what isn't good for them, those kind of things. So that's a challenge. I can tell you that right now. I'm sure you guys have experienced that.
Yeah, the most important thing you said was about 40% being under 65. The inside baseball on that is when someone like that seeks information online, they end up getting a health agent, not a Medicare agent. And once they hear that they're on Medicare or Medicaid, click, they hang up the phone, and those people go without getting any help or information. So it's very important that you realize they're underserved.
Okay. Mr. Fromm asking, as a new agent, how do you market yourself if you have, let's say, a zero budget? Zero budget. All right. If you want to pick up 5 duals Monday, go to the nearest homeless shelter, serve some food, get an opportunity to talk to people. You're going to pick up 5 to 8 in one day. Okay, there you go. That's one way to do it. And you can just go for community that has homeless shelters. There's lots of different ways to get duals. There's low-income housing. We have a low-income housing right down the road. There's like 300 people in that housing. All duals, almost all duals are LIS anyway. Get on those facilities. Doesn't cost any money. You want to go print something up at the local, Kinko type place. I know Kinko's doesn't exist, but whatever. You young people don't know what Kinko's was, but gosh, it was great.
It's right next to Blockbuster.
You're right next to the Blockbuster. Anyway, that's funny. I still have those VHS tapes. Free, it doesn't take anything. You just walk in, knock on the door, talk to somebody, get a relationship, and put up a table. And as people walk in and out, you're enrolling them and giving them a pitch or whatever. Giving your card, tell them how you can help them. We do that all the time. We do a lot of digital marketing. We do a lot of direct mail. We do a lot of TV. We do a lot of radio. We do a lot of YouTube. We do a lot of Google, Yahoo, Bing, social media, everything. But we do a lot of in-person stuff. Every agent in our office has a minimum requirement of 3 per month, or they get fired if they don't. So we are always out in the town getting stuff done. And pretty soon it's going to be 4 per month. We are always out in our communities in a 30-mile radius of my office. That's what you do if you have no budget. Why help duals? Because, we're human beings. And, I think it's incumbent upon us, for those who are able, to help people who are not able. I don't know about you guys. I have helped personally several people in this situation, women. The first time it happened, you're getting tears down your face when it's happening, but, no hair, they're completely bald. You're not really picking up what's going on. Double mastectomy patient. They have terminal cancer, and you're thinking, how can you help this person? And they're a little emotional a little bit while you're talking to them. They're dual, they have nothing. The only thing they want, and I've had at least 10 or 15 people like this that I've helped, all women, unfortunately. So I constantly have this in my mind of why help duals. The last thing that this person wants is to have dentures, because they lost all their teeth. The enamel wore off from the cancer medication, and they have nothing left. And the last thing they want to do before they die is have a smile so they can take a picture. That's tough. And, so that the world will remember them, their family. That's why we want to help people. Okay. It's not about, I get into the numbers and money and all these details and closing rates. This is really why we exist as agents. And it's incumbent upon us to help people like that. I mean, that's powerful stuff. If I have the ability to do that for somebody before they go out of this world, then I can make that happen. And so can you. That's why you help duals, right?
Does just as much for you as it does for them too. In the end, at the end of the day,
Think about the what you're doing for people. No, I mean, just in the Medicare business in general. I mean, you really think about, especially these, but they are the neediest people in society. It doesn't get any worse in terms of, people who need help than people who are on Medicare and Medicaid, truly, at any age. Medicare Savings Program, bottom line, helps pay for different premiums, different things that exist. You can just Google this if you want, but I'm going to go through it a little bit, kind of quick. Simply put, the beneficiary, the person who was looking into it, should apply through their state Medicaid program. Hopefully everybody can see this. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. Levels of Medicaid from top to bottom. And if you're not aware of what's going on, full benefit dual eligible is the highest level. And Medicaid has levels based on need of income and all these assets, and we'll get to it later. So we're going to go over each one of these real quick and what they mean for you and why you need to know all these things. I will say, don't sweat the individual things too much because of the way the carriers do things and the way it works. There you go. Fortunate to be a Medicare agent for senior housing development. It's an exclusive relationship. Just started meeting the residents last week. 10 buildings in total. Blessed. Absolutely. And you're going to kill it in this market. Great for you. Excellent job, whoever that is. Mr. Frog. Okay. The bottom line, and should be a little asterisk on that little blue thing. It says these are full duals in every state. Well, that is true in every state except for a handful of states that are completely broke. Like Illinois, unless they've changed something recently, and I don't know about it as of January. But so some states don't have any money for Medicaid, so they're dual eligible, but they sort of get something in certain states. But the bottom line, in states that have money, which is most states, if you're in the top 3, you're going to get, and they have dual eligible plans, and their states have funding. Okay, you're going to get a full. They're going to qualify for a full dual eligible plan that's available with whatever carrier is available where they live. And that's FBDE, Slim B, and QMB Plus, or Slim B Plus as well. The ones that are below that, they may or they may not, depending on what state, zip code, and so on that they live in. And we're going to go through that. QMB, that can be a little tricky depending on the state. I happen to live in one of those states, which is good old Virginia. QMB in most states is full dual, but certainly not every state. How do you know? For any of these, you simply check the summary of benefits, usually the first page or 2 of the summary of benefits. It's going to be right on there. It'll tell you exactly what it takes to qualify. Some states have full dual plans for QMBs only. So you'll go in, you'll enter stuff, it'll say they don't qualify for a full dual plan. Well, they actually do qualify for a dual plan and has the same benefits for the most part, maybe less of things, but it's still pretty much the same stuff. But they have specific plans for QMBs. And that's something that you need to look out for as an agent, especially if you're selling nationally. So you need to learn, if your local area, your state, you need to learn, what qualifies or what doesn't. Sorry for the uber small print, but that's just the way it came through on this particular program today. It didn't transition well, but these ones at the bottom, which are, let's go, QMB, SLMB, QI, or QWDI, they may or may not be a dual qualifier in a given state. And I'm going to highlight North Carolina right here. So in North Carolina, again, unless they change something in January 1st that I'm not aware of, if you have any level of Medicaid, you qualify for a dual plan, okay? But notice that last point on the blue where it says they may still have out-of-pocket expenses, even though it's, quote, a full dual plan. That can be tricky. So a lot of agents will sell out of state of North Carolina. I've done this before. That's how I know it. And you see the summary benefits, and you think everybody's getting all these, zero premium everything, and they don't have to pay out of pocket, and they're QWDI, right? Or QDWI. Well, the truth is they will have some out of pocket expenses in North Carolina, so you got to be careful of that. And I believe Texas is one of those states. I don't know how many other states do that, but there's a lot of states. There's some states out there. Yeah, I have noticed that some D-SNPs that allow all levels. That's correct. It depends on the state. Virginia, we do not. We are top 4. You know, it's going to be these top 4 ones right here from QMB and above. Most states are QMB and above. Some states, like Texas is one, I believe. North Carolina, I know, is definitely one. And take it from Uncle Sean. I got in trouble once for doing this. I put a QI on a dual plan in North Carolina. You know, went through the whole thing. This is very early in my career, many moons ago. And everything was going to be zero premium, zero out of pocket, whatever. They go to the doctor, and sure enough, they have copays. And I didn't know because I was a new agent and a rookie, didn't realize what I was doing. Sure enough, they had out of pocket expenses. Then I had to talk to the UHC rep in North Carolina, who then gave me a nice counseling and told me what I did wrong. And then I learned. And so that's how I learned some of this stuff many years ago. So be careful where you're selling. Certainly pay attention to your state. All you got to do, open up summary benefits. Tells you right in there for any given state. That way you can just know what you're doing as a professional. Okay. When you see the plus sign on any of these things, like you see the number 2 SLMB at the end as a plus or QMB plus, that means, quote, just think of that as with full Medicaid. That's generically kind of what it means for you. So the top 3 full dual plans in every state: FBDE, SlimB plus, and QMB plus. Okay. That's a little too much yellow for me. I don't know how that actually worked out that way. But the part where it says generally your cost share is 0% and is covered by both Medicare and Medicaid. Bottom line, if you have somebody who's FBDE, they're the highest level of need. And if they're on a full benefit dual eligible plan with basically any carrier, for the most part in almost every state, I should say, they're not going to have any out-of-pocket expenses. Okay, simply put. And they are the most need in our society. SlimB plus. Generally, the cost share is 0% when the service is covered by both Medicare and Medicaid. There's a small handful of cases where the cost sharing may or may not, be covered by Medicaid. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it exists somewhere. Again, they're going to qualify for a full dual plan, and QMB plus, the same thing. Notice that last part. And it really should say, in some cases, the drug copays may or may not be there. It says if applicable at the end. Okay, whatever. In most places, they're not going to have to pay for their medications. And if they qualify for a full dual plan in most states, they won't have any out-of-pocket expenses. It just depends on what the plans are for that given state for those medications. But bottom line, those are the top 3 that qualify for a full dual plan. These others may or may not qualify for a full dual plan. And instead of being 1 through 4, they probably ought to be 4 through, 8, I guess. QMB, SLMB, QI, or QWDI. Now, it's that QMB that's the gray area in some states, and that would be Virginia. It's one of those states. For a long time, Virginia QMBs did not qualify. And a few years ago, they did. And we have our own little deal for that. So some states, they do. Some states, they don't. Again, check the summary benefits. QMB, focus on that bottom part. You pay for nothing except for the Part D. Again, if applicable, we already hit that one. What are the limits? It's kind of good to know these limits. A monthly income limit of $1,275, married couple 1,740 or 1,724, and then there's a resource limit. So you have limits on income and limit on resources. I'm going to hit the differences on those here in a little bit, and so you can see down the slide. Hopefully, married couple 14,130 and for 9,430 for individual resource limit for QMB, and those are the qualifications. SlimB pays for Medicare Part B only, meaning they're going to have out-of-pocket expenses if they're on Medicaid. And we'll talk about those questions. The key questions are coming up soon. So stay with us because I'm going to give you a couple of key questions when you're talking to Medicaid people to help you out when you're doing your presentations. So SlimBs, they're going to have Part B paid for, but they'll have a lot of pocket expenses when they go to their doctor. Okay. Those are the qualification levels. And again, I'm just kind of burning through this. This is all available. Just Google it. You'll find all of it. It's on CMS and other places. QI can be tricky in a lot of places for a lot of agents, especially when we get to the 2 key questions which are coming up. The QI program helps pay for Part B premiums, and it seems eerily similar to QMB. That's the problem. But they're going to have out-of-pocket expenses, so copays and those kind of things when they have that. So you can kind of run into trouble a little bit with QI and QMB, and that's one of the distinctions. We'll talk about that in a minute. Individual monthly limit is 1,715, married couple 2320, and that's up to date for 2024. All these are. So bottom line is this is your income and resource limit for these. QDWI, Qualified Disabled and Working Individuals, pays for party premiums only for people with Medicare under age 65 who are disabled and continue to work. Again, typically are never going to qualify for a dual plan unless they're in certain states, such as North Carolina, and you will find some of these out there. You know, a lot of people who are working, that means they're very low income, but you'll find a lot of people when they work, they just don't qualify at all for Medicaid, but there are some small handful, and this is kind of where they fall into generically. Again, they're going to have out-of-pocket expenses. This is their monthly income limits for individuals and married couples, individual resources limits. And again, I'm going to define very clearly what the income and monthly income limit is. Is the income limit the same for every state? It is set standard by the federal government. I wouldn't doubt if some state changes it, but it is a uniform system nationwide, at least according to CMS. Okay, so that's the best I can give you that answer. So I'm going to go with yes. Here's the key questions. All right, hopefully got through that because it's kind of boring, and you can find all that right on CMS. Number one, so if I'm talking to somebody and they say, hey, you know, I have Medicaid, I have Medicare, great. And you're trying to just, in your mind, kind of, you know, piecemeal them here or place them one way or another. And you basically want to find out if they're full dual or not. These are the two key questions to ask. And the first one is, okay, let me ask you a quick question, sir. Does Medicaid pay for your Part B premiums every month? And they'll say, well, yeah, I mean, I don't have to pay for it. You know, okay, just let me make sure it doesn't come out of your Social Security. You're not having a you know, there's no deduction or no, I don't pay for it at all. It just gets paid. You know, I don't know. I've never had to pay for it. Okay, great. Now you're on your way to a full dual. Okay, but you're not there yet because QMB and up pay for Part B premiums, and they usually don't have any out-of-pocket expenses beyond that for the most part. QI also pays for the Part B premiums. That's why we kind of went through all this. But they also have out-of-pocket expenses. So now you're looking to eliminate QI, and that's part number two. Isn't this correct, Mia? And that is, do you have any out-of-pocket expenses when you go see the doctor? So if you go to the doctor and you get sick or something, do you have any out-of-pocket expenses when you go? And they say, yeah, I usually have to pay a copay, or yeah, I have some sort of percentage. They probably do not qualify for a dual plan, and they're probably QI. That's the difference. If they say no, then they probably qualify. It's highly likely that they qualify for a dual plan. And so these are questions, if we're struggling to get verifications from carriers because the verification system's down or whatever, we in our training here, we ask these two questions just to see if we need to go through the hassle and find out. We do it anyway at some point, but because, you know, sometimes it kind of depends on the situation. So we always will kind of throw these questions out there. And I would implore you to include these somewhere in your toolkit at times when you're talking to people. A lot of times we just start asking questions, and, you know, if anything, you want to be in charge. And if they're kind of asking you questions and you want to get out of that loop and start asking questions, these are some good questions to throw out there to get them asking you other bazillion questions to put you back in charge of presentation. But that's not what this class is for today, and we won't get into how to control your presentation. So the bottom line is, if Medicaid, or you can say Medicare, because they sometimes will say Medicare pays for the Part B premium, they probably qualify. But we're looking, the next one, if they say yes, we're now looking to see if they have any out-of-pocket expenses currently when they go to the doctor. If they say no, they're highly likely a full dual in almost every state. Illinois is definitely a questionable one because they have a lot of issues in Illinois with their funding. Okay, there might be some other states that I don't know about. All right. Bottom line, at least in our office, you do not have a choice. So we're going to go into the process as you're going through when you're talking to these people. You should get pre-approval from the carrier before submitting the application. So if I'm going to actually submit an application and I think they're full dual, regardless of the two questions and all the other stuff that I've done, you know, we definitely tell them to get pre-approval from the carrier. You can do that online. You can call in. I'm sure if you don't know that, there are ways to do that, but you can call in, you can go online, right? We prefer to do it online first, but that system is always down. Then we'll pick up the phone and call, unfortunately, okay? And I'm going to give you a hot little tip here in a few minutes on that. At least I think I did. I think I have it in here on how you can save yourself some time and not lose the sale, because early on I was losing sales because of the carriers trying to get pre-approval from the carrier. Okay. I'm going to show you how to avoid that in a few seconds. Verify the chosen carrier to ensure the person qualifies to do a plan. Use the carrier to look up Medicaid, Medicare, boom, get the carrier, give the confirmation. A lot of times they'll give you a code, and you have to enter that code whenever you're submitting the application. And then they're pre-approved. You don't have to worry about it. It's kind of nice. What is the low-income subsidy? Again, much Medicare agents, hopefully you know what this is. We'll go through it real quick. It's also known as extra help. We use the phrase low-income subsidy as opposed to extra help when talking to people because we find it to be a massive tool kit, a little weapon, if you will, when we're selling. And I'm going to cover that here in a few minutes as well. But the phrase LIS, or low-income subsidy, or LIS, is used interchangeably. It means the same thing. It's through the federal Medicare system. Everyone with Medicaid gets the low-income subsidy, to my knowledge anyway. Not everyone with LIS, or the low-income subsidy, gets Medicaid. There is a difference. Everyone with Medicaid gets LIS, but not everybody with LIS gets Medicaid, which is a little weird. It is income and resource-based. So what does it do? Bottom line, helps pay for prescription drugs, lowers cost of prescription drug coverage. It can pay for some or all of Part D. It eliminates for late enrollment penalties. True story. Why did I get involved in Medicare? This is a very quick story. My mom enrolled in Medicare many moons ago when I was working in the Pentagon. And you probably don't even know this, do you, Matt?
No, I know the story well.
She called me up because, 65, this is way back in the day. She's 78 right now. Well, she has a penalty because she didn't enroll in a drug plan because she didn't know. She got the phone calls from Florida, and she finally answered the call. This is many years ago. This stuff's been going on all, agents bitch about call centers calling. This stuff's been going on a long time, folks. All right. You're dealing, this has been a long time. She's 78. She signed up at 64 and whatever, how many months out, signed up for Plan G, still has Plan G, thank God. But didn't get a drug plan because she didn't take any drugs, didn't know she needed it. The agent probably wasn't licensed at that time to sell a drug plan, whatever, I don't know. Not that long ago, she had to get a medication, went to the pharmacy, and they said, hey, what's your drug plan? What do you mean drug plan? She still didn't know. And then, they told her she had to get a drug plan. Boom, she has a penalty, which, my mom has, the financial means to pay for it, but she doesn't like penalties like anybody else. She considers a tax. So she was just bitching to me to see if I can get out of it. Like I know how to get out of that. It was in the Marine Corps. What do I know about Medicare? Anyway, I started reading manuals to try and get my mom, 70-plus-year-old mother out of this penalty. And what I found was the low-income subsidy can eliminate Part B and D late enrollment penalties. And so I applied for the Medicare Extra Help program. Of course, she was denied. And I wish I could tell you I solved this problem. She still has said penalty today. But that's how I got started. One thing led to another, started helping other people, and the rest is history. So I whatever. That's how I actually kind of got involved in the whole thing. It can cap your drug copays. That's an important point right there when you're selling duals. It can cap your drug copays, and we'll talk about that as well in a few minutes. And of course, you get a SEP every quarter, the first 3 quarters of the year. If they have a low-income subsidy, this is an important thing. It probably ought to be a big asterisk. If they have a low-income subsidy and Medicare wants them on an MAPD or a PDP, so if you have like a veteran at the VA and you sign them up on an MA only, again, if you were in the class last week, you'll know that 50% of all veterans in the United States are on Medicaid. So if they have Medicare, they have an LIS. And if they go to the VA and they don't need a drug plan because they have coverage, creditable coverage through the VA, and you put them on MA only, the carrier is going to want to force them onto an MAPD because they have an LIS. Just know you're going to be dealing with that when you deal with people who don't necessarily need a drug plan because they have credible coverage somewhere else. And you put them on an MA only because they have an LIS. The carrier will force them basically on an MAPD. Just know that's coming. Hopefully you understand what I just said. Price cap, that's the current price caps. QMBs, however, have a lower price cap at $4.60. So $4.50 for generics, $11.20 for brand names. There is a resource and income limit. What is the resource limit to qualify for extra help? $17,220 for an individual, which is pretty high, I'd say. $34,360 for a married couple. That's resource limit, not income limit. So what does resource and income include? So resource includes things of value that you own, such as real estate, bank accounts, including checking, savings, and certificates of deposits, stocks, bonds, including U.S. savings bonds, funds, mutual funds, IRAs, and cash at home or elsewhere. Okay. I want to talk about this briefly, and that's final expense life insurance. I dug and dug and dug for that, and I couldn't find it. I've seen it in other states where some life insurance agents, and they only sell life, not necessarily Medicare, they say it is not included. And I've seen places where it says it is included. I don't know the answer. I will try and find out and get more clarification. I've heard it does count as resource, and I've heard it does not count as resource. But I know this is true, and that's the fourth one down, up to $1,500 in burial expenses if you have money put aside. So maybe that would work. So I'm just trying to kind of lay this out if you're out there selling life insurance as well. What does not count? One car. Okay. Your primary residence, burial plot, furniture, other household and personal items. Some states might have more in addition to this. I don't know if every state has this, but for example, in Virginia, if you have 1 acre of property, no matter how poor you are, you can't qualify. And I don't know if that's every state, but so there's lots of poor people in Virginia with nothing, and they were, gifted through, death, and they received it upon somebody else's death. And they got an acre, and they don't get Medicaid. So it's a pretty bad situation. So it is what it is. So I don't know. So it could be different per state, kind of going on the stuff earlier. Extra help income limit, 22,590. What is that divided by 12? Can you do that, Kevin, with your phone? 22,590. I'm just curious. And then that's annual. And then for married couple, 30,660 for a married couple living together. That's the income limit. We cannot hear you, good sir. Take your mute off.
That always works. 8. Well, no, I deleted it. 590.
19,125. Or wait.
I
19,000.
18. I got 1,882.50.
1,882.50. Somebody put that in the chat just so everybody can see it. Is the income limit per month? Because most people are going to, you ask, you don't want to say their annual income. Just say how much they make per month. That'll tell you, if they can possibly qualify for the low income subsidy.
Sorry, Kevin.
You're good, buddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was math for Marines right there. You just
I did well on that course, actually.
Twice. Low income subsidy income limit. Some include income you earn except SNAP may not be included. Housing assistance, home energy, medical treatment and drugs, disaster assistance, earned income tax payments, assistance to others to pay your household expenses, victims compensation, some scholarships and educational grants not included in your income. Okay. I was really hoping I could show you this link, but I cannot. The bottom line is, if you're an agent, especially a good field agent, have some of these paper applications with you. Have them fill it out and mail it in. The big, huge letters, like big boxes, it's kind of nice for somebody who can't see as well. And, or they can just apply online. Over the years, this process has gotten better and better and better, but have them apply. Even if you don't think they can, and even if they don't think they can, just have them apply. I didn't think my mom could get accepted, but hey, maybe they say yes. Worst case, they say no. Who cares? It took them 5 minutes to fill it out. If they're on the bubble, have them fill it out, send it in. You never know. Maybe they get it one day. Who knows? We have a lot of people fill it out and they, they'll get approved. We also have a lot of people fill it out and they don't get approved. But again, if you have somebody with a penalty, of a drug penalty or a Part B penalty or an A penalty, have them fill it out. Who cares what their income is? I mean, unless it's like way up there, maybe they qualify. Maybe they get lucky. There's a lot of widows who qualify for Medicaid and extra help, but they had money before, their husband passes away. Have them apply for extra help. Have them apply for Medicaid. Sometimes they're too proud or they don't know it's even there. Okay, have them apply. They can qualify. All right, here we go. Now we're getting into the sales stuff, which is probably why most people are here. And near the end of the presentation as well. So hopefully you got all the administrative stuff out of the way. If you have any questions on that good stuff, let me know. Put it in the chat. But now we're going to try and get into the actual presentation a little bit. So I just put some bullet points of some of the key stuff that we have in our presentations as we go. But whether you're in person or over the phone, for us, our presentations are almost always the same. And that is, hello, Mr. Carlos. Carlos Polito, my good friend, is watching. I wish he was participating because he's a machine. We need to have Carlos on one day. Let's talk about it. So pre-qualify always. When you're talking to somebody, and they say they have Medicaid, especially if they feel like an online lead or something like that, and they say they have Medicaid, you better pre-qualify them to ask them if they have Medicare Part A and Part B. Because they think they do, and a lot of them do not. We've had leads come in all the time. Yeah, I got Medicaid. Well, okay, that's great. Do you have Medicare Part A and Part B? Yes, I do. Okay, so you have the Medicare Part A and Part B red, white, and blue card? No, what's that? You guys had that?
Yes.
Yeah. And Kevin, take you off mute.
Yeah,
so let me ask you guys this question. Have they ever told you, yes, they have Medicare Part A and Medicaid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And have you ever gone into those people? Have you ever gone through the full presentation after they told you they had it, only to go through the whole presentation? Would you get their information? They, in fact, do not have Medicare Part A and Part B.
Right onto the application, and they don't have Part B. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But previously, like 20 minutes prior or whatever it had been in your presentation, they told you they had it. They swore.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I got it.
Yep. Oh, I got it. Oh, I got the red, white, and blue card. Yeah, that's like your McDonald's card or something. So that my point is, you better ask that right off the bat. You do not want to talk to somebody. So this comes from the Marine Corps of me, right? We don't want to talk to anybody who's ever had a history of asthma. They won't allow them. So have you ever had asthma anytime? Yes. See ya. Not talking to you. We don't care anymore. We want to eliminate people that we cannot help if it's a dual situation. So somebody doesn't have Medicare, and I'm a Medicare agent. Now maybe I can help them with something else. I don't know, but if they tell you have Medicaid, you better find out if they have Medicare before you really continue on. And it's just a verbal thing. Do you have Medicare Part A and Part B? Yes, I do. And then re-ask it in this way. Oh, so you have the Medicare Part A and Part B card. The red, white, and blue Medicare Part A and Part B card. Is that correct? Yes, I do. So we try to get a double positive. If they say yes, then we continue on the presentation. Some small time, a small percentage of the time, as Matt and Kevin and myself have all testified to that. Well, they'll make it through the very end, and then we'll find out, in fact, do not have Medicare. But it's not very often if you ask those questions. Would you agree with that, guys?
Yeah. No, it's not very often. And a lot of times I get a lot of people confused when you're saying Medicare and Medicaid. They hear what they want to hear, which is either one or the other, and not both. So that's another one. So you got to kind of explain the differences there.
What would happen? Let's do it the other way. If you didn't ask this question right off the bat when you're talking to somebody, what would happen?
You're wasting your time not talking to a qualified prospect.
A lot of time.
Yeah, like half the people won't even qualify. You are totally wasting your time. Literally half the people you talk to, especially if they're internet generated leads buying from a vendor or whatever, they don't have Medicare. But they just want the benefits, and they will lie to you because they want whatever's coming. Okay. And they think they're going to get through the system. Literally, they think they'll lie and get through the system. No. Okay. You have to have Medicare and A and B. Okay. Let's move on. Let's say they do qualify. Remember, a lot of these people have a mental health issue. About half of people who have Medicare and Medicaid in the country, they're poor, they're extremely skeptical. They have a mental health issue. They think you're lying. They think you're going to have to pay for something. All right. They do not believe that what you're presenting is $0 per month, which most duals are. I'm sure there's a scenario where they couldn't be in some state. I don't know, but like most states that I've heard of, that, especially if they're full dual, that everything is $0 and they get all these benefits. They don't believe you. Okay. Know that this is coming when you're talking to them. And it's not you. It's just the way they are and how they are when they come in, when they're approaching the thing. And I mean, if you think about it, it's a pretty darn good deal if you have a full dual plan. And we as Americans tend to be skeptical because we've got all these ads and all this BS coming at us all the time. Anyway,
no such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah, it does sound too good to be true. So you better get into your needs analysis ASAP, or they're going to check out from you mentally, whether it's on the phone or in person. So get through whatever you got to get through and get right to the needs analysis because they're not going to believe you anyway. Okay. So focus on the emotion in your presentation. That's what we do. And by asking questions to elicit answers. And I'm not going to go into all that, but the bottom line needs analysis, and hopefully you know what that is. If you don't, Google it, because you should be doing it anyway as part of your presentation as a Medicare professional. When they tell you what they're looking for, they're going to tell you what they're looking for through your needs analysis. So when they do, stop right there and tell them how you think you might be able to help them if they qualify for everything. So they might say they need, glasses, and they can't afford glasses, and they're running into trees or something. I don't know. They can't read well, or they can't see, or whatever. They can't hear. I've heard all kinds of different things. Honestly, I'm sure you guys have heard all kinds. Dental or whatever it is. They need rides to and from the doctor's office. I had a guy who was a dual, and he didn't have any legs. And this is and he wanted a way to get medications that were delivered to him. That was his sole thing. He really didn't care about anything else. And so the end state is I was able to do that for him. We found a mobile delivery pharmacy place. Man, this guy is he's still a customer. We've been a customer for 6-7 years now. We'll probably never leave. No, knock on wood. So find whatever it is and let them know how you can benefit, how that will help them, right? Let them know how their life is going to be better in the future with the things that you think you can do if they qualify. Number 4. So how do we verify Medicare and Medicaid, at least here in our office? That was one of the little secrets. We use VAs to do it. Why do I do this? So early on in my presentation, we go through, we get all the information. They're basically ready to go, but we just have to verify with the carrier that they in fact qualify for a dual plan. So we have all the information, and I pick up the phone, and I'm, back in those days, you call. Sometimes you still call, right? And, these people check out because you could be on the phone for 15, 20 minutes waiting on hold, right? Or let's say you're on a certain healthcare company's chat feature and they're delayed because it's the annual enrollment period, and it just seems to be taking them an hour to get back to you, right? You all know what I'm talking about. Or I don't know, let's say the whole state's Medicaid system goes down, which is going on, it seems like nationwide right now for the last week. So we have to call. We're having lots of issues with that here in our office right now. So we have our VAs, our virtual assistants, call in and do this for us. We have all of our own VAs. We have a marketing company called Automated Marketing Sales. We can help you with VAs if you're looking for that. That's not we're not pitching all that. Long story short, Matt and Kevin have had VAs with ours for years, and they can attest that they like their VA if they want to. But
very much.
You guys know what you pay per hour for VAs?
What do we pay per hour,
yeah,
Sean?
Good question.
Good question.
I really don't even know anymore. It's $1.81, I believe. No, we don't pay like that, people. We pay them very well, but they pay $1.81, and I take. Never mind. Long story short, we have our own VAs, and they're very well trained. They're highly well paid. They love working for us. They never quit, and we subsidize that for our agents. Long story short, there's that pitch. But the bottom line, they do the work. They do the work. And the reason why they do the work is because that's what they're for. So I lost people in my presentation as I'm talking to them because I was trying to get the verification with these these wonderful companies that we work with. And so now what happens is we're just writing the information down. We take a little picture or whatever we want to do, and we get the information to our VAs. They pick up the phone, they call. And while that's happening in the background for 15, 20 minutes, I'm continuing on with my conversation, and they have no idea what's going on in the background. The customer has no idea. And 10, 15, hopefully minutes later or less, boom, we find out that they're verified. We get the code, done deal. How about that? Is that worth $1.81 an hour? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if they're paying $1.81 an hour. I think we cut that in half. Let them know they have the low income subsidy. So when when you find out they qualify and you find out that they have the low income subsidy, they already know what extra help is. A lot of them do, whether they're on full dual or they're just regular MAPD with an LIS. They know what a lot of them will know what the extra help program is. So don't say extra help. What we say is low income subsidy. They don't know what that is. So it puts you on a higher level. They know what the benefits are, and they're going to, I know what you're talking about, but they really don't. And this is number 5 is probably the single biggest key that I can give anybody who's ever trying to sell or help or whatever word you want to use a dual beneficiary. It's number 5. This is a key point. Remember, they don't trust you. And up to this point, they're worried about one thing, a lot of them, and the experience that I've had, and we help thousands of people literally every year, and we've had thousands of customers. We still have them. And what they're worried about is paying more out of pocket, right? They don't want to pay a monthly premium. We'll see that in a minute. They're worried about their medications becoming more expensive. So we say on purpose, the low-income subsidy to kind of set ourselves up a little higher, but we're not lying, right? Oh, excellent. Well, listen, you qualify for the low-income subsidy. Not only you qualify for this plan, but you also qualify for the low-income subsidy. And then I simply go on and explain, like, oh, what's that? And now they're listening to me because they think they're getting something more that they didn't have previously, even though they did. So low-income subsidy is a key phrase. And then we'll explain to them that it's a price cap on their medications and that no matter what Medicare plan they have or what company they sign with, they will never lose that cap. So now in their mind, they can switch. Does that make sense? And they can, even if they're not on a Medicare, if they're not with a company and they have original Medicare with Medicaid and full dual, they now know that they're not going to have to pay any more for these medications for the most part. So now they're not afraid to move. So you've eliminated an objection in your presentation by going through this process, which you should do in my book anyway, because they do in fact qualify for the low-income subsidy. And you're just, as a professional, explaining what the program is. At some point they go, oh yeah, that's right. If you mention the words extra help, they'll go, yeah, I know what extra help is. Don't use that. Use low-income subsidy. They'll check you right out. They don't know what low-income subsidy is, though. Of course, number 6, do that all the time whenever you're doing any kind of Advantage plan. Get doctors and meds. Make sure they're in network. Number 1 complaint for an Advantage plan, 98% of complaints are my doctor or my meds are not in network. Okay. Now, with duals, you have to ask these negatively. And what I mean is they give you your doctors, and then, you go through, you find out they're all in network, and then you'll say, okay, do you have any other doctors? No. Okay, so you don't see any other medical professionals anywhere else. Okay, ma'am, do you have a gynecologist? Okay, do you have a dentist? You really have to kind of go through these things because they will give you one doctor, and they have like 10 doctors. I mean, I'm sure Matt and Kevin, I've seen a long list of medications. I think in our office, 37 medications might be the record, but I can't remember.
I think most I've ever had was like 18.
Yeah, it's
doctors do come out of the woodwork though, and it's like, oh, I forgot I have, a neurologist or my cardiologist. They come out of the woodwork, and you do want to double check that because it could be a problem. Absolutely.
How about this one that they don't want to tell you about? Pain meds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A lot of them are on pain pills, and they don't want to talk about it. And that was my first lesson. One of my other first lessons is a lot of my pain pills, and wasn't capturing that information, and I got in trouble. Not the slap on the wrist, it was no big deal, but because we've been recording my calls for a long time, so we were good. But long story short, yeah, they won't tell you everything you want to hear, because again, there's a lot of mental issues, so you got to dig it out.
And sometimes they're so high they can't remember.
Yeah. Go through the summary of benefits for the plan they qualify for. Of course, when done with the summary of benefits, they highly likely, I don't know if you guys experience this, but I've experienced this a lot. I go through the summary of benefits, and then when the beginning of the presentation, they're like, well, I don't have any money to pay. I'm not paying for anything, right? And you're like, well, no, blah, blah, blah. And you get through that. And the end, you've gone through the summary of benefits, and they see a massive benefit, and then they change in mind, and they'll say something along the lines of, all right, well, how much is this going to cost me now? So now they're kind of like ready to buy and maybe even pay something out of pocket, but they still don't believe it's zero premium. Have you guys had that before at this point? Yeah. And you come back and you say, it's $0 per month. And again, we'll go through the summary benefits so you have an understanding of it. If you're, depending on the company you're working with or whatever, you want to make sure they truly know all this stuff. And they're truly shocked. And it's basically a done deal there. But we do recommend you get, we call it positive affirmation. Get a clear yes, clear no. If they're not very clear about it, we go through everything all over again, and I won't go down all that stuff. And then we, submit the application. It's pretty much common sense. That last little yellow right there, because this is the very last slide, and when we'll have you guys jump in and interject with whatever you got, whatever you want, and have a little open discussion. Guys, if you have any questions out there, put them in the chat. But what if they don't qualify for a full dual plan, but they have a low-income subsidy? Is there a lot of those people, Matt and Kevin, that you've seen?
Oh, yeah. Listen, if somebody's not on Medicaid, but they tell me they have extra help or LIS, and you're still looking at that using that step to try to get them into a better plan if there's one out there.
Right.
I agree with Kevin on that one. He pretty much said it all.
Yeah, so we'll drop them down. If we find out, we call it dropping down in our office. But we're not dropping anywhere because we find out what they qualify or don't qualify for. And then if they don't qualify for a dual plan, but they have an LAS, we're going to try and enroll them in something if we can find them a better plan. If we can't, we don't. We just leave them and move on. We're not, so commission hungry. We just move on.
Yeah, you know what? That actually does go a long way, because I've gotten a lot of referrals off of people that at the end of the day, I didn't move them because they were in the best plan, and it gave them a little bit of peace of mind. But then I get a phone call from them a few weeks later. Hey, my brother, my sister, my neighbor, this and that. You build trust that way.
Yeah.
And it has a positive effect on them. You can reap rewards off of it.
Yeah. I would love to have a class on ethics one day, but because I definitely have different opinions, and I could go many different ways on these things. But and I think sometimes it's useful for maybe agents to have a discussion on ethics, free of insurance companies. But this is the last slide. What else, Matt, in your experience, feel free to say anything, in your experience, because you guys got a lot of experience. So
the one thing that I would point out for anybody that's looking to get into selling duals is to disregard the myth that duals don't stick. They're high maintenance. They're not worth going after. And the truth of the matter is like you mentioned earlier, you have an opportunity to help somebody, and when you feel good about yourself, like Kevin just said, by showing people the best plans and not necessarily enrolling them, you're going to be more productive when you feel good about yourself. And when you're helping someone and you're present and you answer phone calls and you're there for them, these people, the dual eligibles, will stay with you as long as you're in business.
Yeah.
Because they have a sense of loyalty because you're going just a little extra mile for them. So for people that will tell you that the deals don't stick and everything else, that maybe they're not just spending the right amount of time with them. That's I feel that's a big fallacy, and shouldn't deter you from working the field in the market.
Yeah, I'd say probably my in the Medicare segment, like my highest retention rate is duals. I've still got duals from when I first started, and most of the clients that I have that I've had for 2 or 3 years have all been duals. They stick around, and build loyalty with them. They usually take a little bit longer to talk to because of what we kind of went over with all the issues that they have. But man, once you get them signed up, they'll stick with you.
What is the hardest part in your presentation, would you say, if let's say they bought, they're going to end up buying or whatever. What's the hardest part, would you say, for you guys when you're talking to these folks?
Like you just went over, convincing them that it costs them nothing. They just don't believe it. I mean, I have a ton of clients that are just on regular MAPDs that can't believe that there's no monthly premium. And then when you get to the dual eligibles, what do you mean? The doctor's visits are nothing. This and that's nothing. I get how much they really don't believe that there's any way possible that it can cost them nothing. And then once you win them over on that,
I have a way I deal with that, and it works
let's
very
hear it,
well.
buddy.
Yeah. What I do is when I feel that is the case, I just take it right back to the truth, and I tell them, listen, 25 years ago, Bill Clinton, Newt Gingrich, they were sitting around. There's also health insurance companies lobbying the government for millions of dollars, and they came up with a plan called Medicare Choice. And at the time, they felt like they were spending too much money on Medicare, and now they're subsidizing and regulating companies to take over, and they have to, I just explained the program, how it came into be, and now they can offer ancillary benefits that original Medicare didn't offer. So, that's where it started, and that's why you can get these extra benefits, is because the government made a deal with the insurance companies, and it was back 25 years ago. And I just go back to the origins of the Medicare Advantage plan, and why there's zero premiums and why, they're taking the money from your Medicare and the Medicaid, and that's why you're able to get the benefits and it doesn't cost anything. I mean, I don't always say it the same way every time, but I just go back and say, 25 years ago, you remember Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. It was, legislation that they passed because they didn't feel like the government was dealing with Medicare efficiently.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little too much. It could be too much with the wrong person, but sometimes the truth will set you free.
Hot tip, Sean's hot tip. Somebody else, or I think it was somebody also said, low budget. How can I get leads? All right. We mentioned going to low income housing. We mentioned going into homeless shelters. You can work with your local carrier reps in a couple different ways. You can do like a food type drive with a food bank, right? I was about to already give you a really good hot tip, but I think I'm going to save that one for myself. But here's another hot because this one really does work. But here's one I will tell you. A lot of carrier reps in states, if you're a good agent and you have a good relationship with them, they have lots of free leads. And we get lots of leads every month because we sell a lot. So every month we probably get several hundred. I've had almost 1,000 in a month from certain carriers. Bottom line, they've been the way states work, they get appointed with those carriers when they go on Medicaid. Educational events, there you go. But they get appointed with the state, and the state automatically appoints them with certain carriers, just the way it works. And then they put them on a drug plan or whatever they do. And those carriers will try and sign them up, and they're not successful. So they're kind of like leftover leads to some degree, but they're free. And you have the ability, they'll give you those leads if you have a good relationship with them. And, you can contact them and reach out on behalf of the carrier. Actually, if you talk to the carrier, you can actually, if you know what you're doing, you can, I won't go into detail, but you can talk to your carrier about what you can do or can't do. They'll tell you exactly what you can do. They give you scripts the whole bit. And we get a lot of leads. Some of you are going to go, yeah, but these are pre-work leads or whatever. We traditionally close 8% of those leads every single month. If we get 100 leads a month, we'll sell 8 of them, right? I'll tell you, those leads, though, you'll have a lot of, we run into this problem a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? A power of attorney, like a relative has power of attorney. So you have to deal with that a lot of time. May or may not be a good plan. Here's something else that you have to deal with, which I don't like with power of attorneys. Well, maybe not power of attorneys, but a lot of these people that are duals, they have home health care by a relative. I don't know if we're working on this, and hopefully I'll have a tip for people later on. I can throw it out to you because I'm trying to get something, but maybe somebody else knows this answer. But this is the scenario. We have, Jim Bob is full dual. He's got a lot of issues. He has somebody watching him at home who happens to be a relative. A lot of times it's a brother or a wife or whatever, and son, daughter, whatever. And they're getting paid by Medicaid to administer the health care on a daily basis. They might get $15-20 an hour to do it. Well, when you put them on a dual plan, a lot of times they'll lose that income. And if they have again, what's the word I'm looking for? Where power of attorney. And right. So they control this process. So you can actually get them better health care by putting them in this plan and this and that. They don't sign them up oftentimes because they know they're going to lose their paycheck. And it's a thing that happens when you're talking to these folks. And I don't necessarily like it, but it is what it is. So what we're looking into is to see how those people can get certified with carriers to continue that paycheck coming in, because they'll be more than happy to sign a deal. They know they should do it, but they're not going to do it because it's not in their personal best interest. It happens all the time. Just know that that's out there. Have you guys ran into that at all or no?
I haven't, no.
I've run into it, but it's not a huge concern, but it's certainly out there, like you said.
Yeah, we get it from the carrier leads all the time. But you know what? Again, don't be afraid to work those. Who cares? We're going to get no's. We don't care. We move on because we're getting 8% yeses traditionally. Sometimes we get 12, 15%, but traditionally, historically, we've gotten 8%. And we like it because they cost me $0 to get those leads. And it's nothing for us to get 100 or 200 leads a month. I mean, what a deal, right? We've had up to $1,000 in a month. So just depends. The more you do, the more the carriers are going to help you out. Trust me, there's a lot more than 100 available. They're divvying them up to different areas depending on where you live. So, and where you know the type of agent you are or whatever. Somebody's getting them. Okay, somebody is getting those leads. Trust me. If it isn't you, look in the mirror and find out why you're not. That's why one of the many reasons why you want to have a good relationship with your local agent. Fair enough. And that includes you gentlemen down in Florida. I mean, why not? So anyway, they're all over the country. People every day are going in Medicaid. Yeah, we can talk about all the people coming out, but there's still lots of people in every state going into Medicaid, and they have Medicare, and they're assigned with a company, and they're eligible. By the way, the companies, when they give you a list, they're pre-approved for dual plans. They don't just say, they may or may not qualify. They're pre-approved. They already know they're full dual. They've been assigned to that company. You just haven't signed up, and they live right in your town. I guarantee you, there's 500 or 600 people who live within a 10-mile radius of my office that are full dual eligible, probably more than 500 or 600. I know in my county alone, there's a whole bunch, but they're just, things happen, mental, whatever it is, they're just not signed up. And so they're all over the country, right where you live. There's people, you just got to get to them. Okay. There's opportunities. You just got to find them and figure out how to get to them. And that is hard. Okay. Wish I could tell you it was easy. Any other questions from anybody else? Any other comments? Hopefully you learned something today. It's not the most exciting subject, but you can help people, and that's what this is all about. And yes, you get paid to do this, but at the end of the day, you're going to really be helping people, the most needy people out there. Yeah, somebody said, don't be afraid to work age leads. I will say that world is going to be changing because of, TCPA and CMS and all that stuff that's coming down, which, talked about it. But, the bottom line is the lead world is changing for I think, the better. I'm not worried about it at all because we all always generated our own leads anyway. So irrelevant to me. But people who buy leads, you need to start generating your own leads because it's going to get hectic out there. So, Kevin, Matt, anything we say before we go farewell?
Nope, just good luck to everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah, good luck. Good selling.
Awesome. Well, if anybody has any questions, throw them in the chat. What's that?
Have a good weekend. Thank you for having us on.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the flip side.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.